So who has read The Lords? The Lord series by Shantel Tessier is beautifully done. But it's also seriously, seriously dark. So keep that in mind. And if you're not in the know, it is a series of dark romances, mostly based in college. And they take the level of spice and dark and romance and twist and everything high. Yeah. And I first discovered the Lord series at a Barnes & Noble. I was looking through books and I found the book, The Sacrifice. Read it and I'm like, wow, this sounds great. I want to read it. But then I discovered it was a third in the series. So, had to put it down and decided to look up the first book, which is this beauty right here, The Ritual. I loved it. I couldn't get enough, but I kept thinking about the sacrifice, kept thinking about that character in the sacrifice that's described in the description. Thankfully, the books are standalone, so I was able to skip the second book and go straight to the third book. I'm semi-glad I did that because I got my fix, but then I'm like, well, what's the second book about? Well, I didn't find out because instead I went to the next book, which was Carnage, and then the next book, which was Madness. I skipped the novella, which was Sabotage, but I'll go back to it eventually. That's the nice thing about standalones. But anyway, recently she announced the newest book in the series, Chaotic, which is about Cashton. Yay. And I figured, while I'm waiting for that book to come out, might as well go back to almost the beginning and start the second book that I skipped, which is The Sinner. What's The Sinner about? Let's find out together. Little Demon. I was raised in a world where money and power are at your fingertips. My father is a lord, a very respected member of a society that knows no bounds. When tragedy struck my family, we discovered we weren't untouchable. Just when I thought life couldn't get any worse, I was shown what hell is really like. Then he came and saved me. The devil disguised as my personal hero. But of course, nothing is for free. Not when a soul is up for grabs. I vow, you vow, we vow. That is a really good tagline. Easton Bradley Sinnott. Sin. Uses his power for his own sick pleasure. Like a typical lord, he never thought about the consequences of his actions. I grew up with him, obsessed over him, craved him. He was who I pictured when I imagined doing things my body shouldn't want. Ooh. One day I realized he was not who I thought he was. It didn't change anything, though, because I was already too far gone. If anything, I fell for him harder. Ooh. Every now and then, someone enters your life who flips it upside down. Sin wrecked me in the worst way, and I thanked him for it by serving on my knees. As they say, nothing lasts forever. Men like him never stay. With a woman like me, I'm what they use, not keep. So when he threw me away, I shouldn't have been at all that surprised. My body had always craved the darker side of love, the kind that left bruises and scars. I was what most would call unholy. And when the devil whispered in my ear that he loved me, I was more than determined to show him just how devoted I could be. Sounds interesting. And not too bad. The story length, from what I can tell, according to the copy I have, we are looking at 555 pages. Not too bad. So, I'm going to go start this beauty. And we'll see how it goes. And a day and a half later, and it's done. I finished The Sinner. Couldn't put it down. It was very, what the fuck did I just read? I am on the edge of my seat. I cannot stop turning these pages. Kind of book. I was actually debating whether or not I should make this video, considering that the subject matter in this book is bow wow. And I'm not just talking the good parts, I'm talking about bad parts too. It's pretty whoa. So definitely you want to check your triggers for this. It's probably a good thing I waited to read this book. One of the better things about a standalone, you can always read them out of order and read them whenever you want. I did not initially, when I was going through the series, think about the triggers for this one. I just read some of the reviews, and the reviews were very mixed. Some loved the book, others were like, no, I don't like the book. It's too much this, it's too much that. Well, it's definitely a lot of the bad that. Can't say a lot of these words, so there you go. I will say it is a very good read. Like I said, I couldn't put it down a day and a half and I was done. I would have read it sooner, but a whole pesky 9-to-5 job thing. Otherwise, I probably would have had it read in half a day instead of a day and a half. But the overall story was very intriguing. I really loved the character Sin. Yeah, that's what they call him in the book, Sin, and he earns that title. His real name is Easton Sinnott, but he definitely deserves the title of Sin. And I love his character. It's just, I plain don't give a plain ass fuck. I think that's what a lot of us love about dark romance. We have so many of these main characters that just do not give a damn. And Sin is definitely one of those guys that just does not give a damn. And he is doing everything in his power to get the girl. And technically, he doesn't have to do much because the girl, which her name is Ellington, goes by Ellie, they've known each other their entire lives. They've secretly been crushing on each other since they were kids, just never knew it. And then comes the opportunity that, ooh, we can be together. Wait, we can't, because there's this crap, and there's this crap, and there's this crap. Like I said, a lot of the subject matter is really triggering, so I can't really talk about it here. I might make a Patreon video on it, though. Regardless, I will spoil this one part, okay? The Lords. In case you aren't already aware, if you haven't read these books behind me, or this book right here, or the other books that are in the series, is about basically a cult. Best way I can describe them cinematically is movie The Skulls. They control everything, and you're born into it, but you got to be initiated into it, and it's 3 years of initiation once they reach university level. And that 3 years of initiation, they are put through complete hell. And that includes celibacy for those 3 years. So you can imagine just how on edge these guys are, because of course they're all man whores prior to being initiated. And now they got to go 3 years celibate. Cold turkey, from what I'm led to believe most of these guys go through. Yeah, no wonder the dicks. And then for the reward, once they make it to their senior year, they are given a chosen. They go through a vow ceremony with their chosen. And the vow ceremony is basically, what they've been craving for those 3 years in front of all these men. They, at this point, just don't care anymore. And the women, well, they agree to it. That's all I can say. They agree to it. But in the sinner, it's a little different because Sin doesn't want his chosen. He wants Ellington. But Ellington isn't allowed to be a chosen. Well, it doesn't really stop him, does it? But Ellington goes through a lot of trauma thanks to an evil stepfather, and who we later on also mother, not stepmother, mother. Yeah, great parents. And in order for him to get her forever, because he's like, I'm a one woman kind of man, even though I'm an asshole, I only want one woman, and it's gonna be her. No other woman will do. He puts her through complete hell. He makes her think, I love you, I'm gonna be with you, I'm gonna give you all the treasure you've ever wanted, I'm gonna make you feel things you never felt before. And then turns around and said, I used you because I wanted you, now I had you, and I gotta go do something else. Putting her through the ringer, putting her through so much emotional trauma. She is a fracking wreck. She goes off and does stuff, girls who've been through trauma do. She does drugs. She looks for promiscuity. She does all these things that just contribute to her downfall because she has no idea what else to do. She's alone. Her mom doesn't want to support her. Her mom actually is one of the contributors to all this, unbeknownst to her. And she gives her no support and saying it's all her fault. Complete narcissist behavior now. And she has no idea why she isn't loved. And it's all an act. He has to prove her worth. And by proving her worth, the lords force him to make her think he doesn't want her. And when it finally comes to having to prove her loyalty, she does not know she's going through this. But when it finally has to come through proving her loyalty, all she has to do is protect him by keeping her mouth shut. What does she do? She keeps her mouth shut. Because even through all this crap he's putting her through, even through, giving her the best moments of her life and then shattering them the next day, literally the next day, she still protects him by keeping her mouth shut. And the thing I love the most, even though this is fiction, and that's the good thing about these books, that it's fiction, because I can never condone this in real life. Never. But the thing I loved that he did is that he made her believe they were buying a house together, had her sign all these documents. Well, one of them was a marriage certificate. He married her without her knowing. That was his way of ensuring that she was his, whether she knew it or not. And I know, bad. But you cheered when he did it. You were so glad that he did it because you knew he was going to keep her till the end no matter what he put her through. And when you finally got to the climax and finally realized what this was all about, you wanted to both kick the lords, kick the second stepdad, punch the mom in the junk, even though she has no junk. You were like, yeah, I'm going to give you junk so I can punch you in the junk and you can feel a little pain. But you also wanted to punch Sin for having her go through this because she has been through enough. Like I said, there are subject matter in here that I can't talk about it, but some of that subject matter, a lot of us girls can relate to. Just remember me too. Okay? That's a lot of what's going on with her in her past. And the fact that he just makes her go through so much more trauma because he has to prove her loyalty, because he has to prove himself because of who he is and what he's a part of, just makes you want to, come on, Sin. But in the end, it all makes sense. It's all worth it. And everyone gets their comeuppance. And there's major twists. I can see why I got mixed reviews. Definitely see why I got mixed reviews. But in my opinion, it's a very good book. I give it a 9. Mostly because of the trauma she went through. Like I said, the whole Me Too thing. Yeah, those parts were on the harder side to read. That's why it's always important to check your triggers. She lists them in the book. A lot of them, like I said, not appropriate for TV. So if you decide to pick up this book or any of these other books or the other books she has on her shelf, check those triggers. Definitely check those triggers. You go in without knowing, and then something does hit, you're really hurting yourself. That's why authors have become very mindful these days. When you want to keep your mental health in check. But yes, I give that a 9. It is a good book. But is it my favorite out of these 3? No. It's hard for me to distinguish which of these characters I love more. Sin is great. Don't get me wrong. He definitely earns that title. But do I love Riot or do I love Tyson a little more? I'm going to have to go ahead and reread them again. And I'll let you know one day. Until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for hearing my rambling. And if this is your first time seeing me, welcome. Like and subscribe, please. I'm also an author, so also check out my books. I'd appreciate that. I'm just shamelessly, poaching my own stuff here. All right, I'll leave you guys be. Bye.